So, ladies and gentlemen, I am indeed very delighted to have the great honor to release the results of the Kenya Pipeline Company Limited initial public offer, paving way to its eventual listing at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, which is coming in 17 years after Safaricom IPO, done in 2008, having been the last listing by the government of Kenya. In fact, it is almost 18 years. The finalization of the Kpc IPO is a significant milestone that transcends a single transaction or just being a key statistic at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. At its core, it speaks to how the government prudently manages public assets, how it finances development in an era of constrained fiscal space, and how constitutional oversight is exercised in practice. Throughout this IPO, there has been loud whispers about overvaluation of the shares, with some pessimists predicting doom on the IPO. At the commencement of this IPO process, I did promise the country that the process shall be undertaken under a strict framework encompassing accountability, equity, value for money, and transparency. I am delighted to stand here today and affirm that I have lived by that promise, as I accepted to walk the difficult path in ensuring that Kenyans get the true value of their investment. This was one process that we had to get it right the first time. We went into this process well aware and in full recognition of stakeholder concerns on valuation, sovereignty, trust, and timing. There was therefore a clear need for full transparency, parliamentary scrutiny, and public participation in the proposal's consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, it was also clear to us that Parliament's oversight role and citizen engagement through public participation were very foundational, not merely procedural aspects. We didn't see the heightened scrutiny as unnecessary hurdles to be overcome, but as constitutional mechanisms through which democratic legitimacy, accountability, and public confidence are secured. The successful Kpc IPO is a clear reflection of the growing strength and maturity of our economy, coming days after the successful liability management operation which we executed about a week as a proactive management of Kenya's external debt, targeting rollover risk around the 2028 maturity and amortization pressure from the 2032 notes, as well as the recent consensus by the major credit rating agencies in upgrading Kenya's sovereign rating. The successful IPO further sustains our economic reforms and enables us to sustain the economic achievements realized thus far, both from a macro and fiscal perspectives. That is inflation rate, which has now stabilized around 4.4%. The last statistics was 4.3%. Interest rates, which have started coming down and falling, currency stabilization, GDP growth, and I want to add that even liquidity in our economy has significantly improved. And that has been reflected in the coming down of non-performing loans in our financial or banks and other financial institutions. And that is a clear demonstration that the liquidity in the market, the liquidity in our economy is improving. I've heard people say, where is the money in our pockets? The money in the pockets is not a referendum question. It is reflected in what actually is reported by those who are handling the money. So I was saying that we have fiscal perspectives as we turn to innovative financing mechanisms to fund infrastructure and public service projects. As the financial needs of the government continue to outpace available public resources, private sector participation has become a critical tool in addressing infrastructure gaps, enhancing service delivery, and promoting sustainable development. The proceeds from the IPO shall be deployed in the National Infrastructure Fund, and I'm sure we'll answer questions on this, because there are questions. Where is this fund? Did Mbadi lie? So I will address that, and the jury will be out there who is saying the truth. So the proceeds of the IPO shall be deployed into the National Infrastructure Fund, a vehicle we have purposed the premier economic engine to scale up and accelerate development of catalytic national infrastructure, including national highway and railway networks, air and seaports, electricity generation and transmission and distribution, irrigation and agribusiness infrastructure. Those are the areas that we are targeting with the funding from National Infrastructure Fund. The deployment of the proceeds of the National Infrastructure Fund is well aligned with Kenya's fiscal realities and long-term development objectives, focused on sustainable financing and safeguarding national assets for future generations. The key role of the National Infrastructure Fund is to mobilize long-term financing for major projects, attract private investment, and reduce reliance on public debt and taxes for development. The fund is being established to address a nation's infrastructure gap and support sustainable economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, I am particularly impressed on some of the key milestones that have been gained from this IPO. One, it has been the first IPO, e-IPO. It is the first IPO where paper was not involved. There was no paper at all in this IPO, meaning all applications were submitted electronically, hence a truly paperless IPO. The IPO attracted over 70,000 ordinary Kenyans, thus enabling achievement of the IPO's key objective of democratizing public assets by broadening the shareholder base. Some information and report that has also come from our lead transaction advisor, who actually was monitoring through the dashboard, monitoring expression of interest from Kenyans, is that the retail investors were repeating their expression of interest. Someone today offers to buy 100 shares because that was the minimum, puts 900 shillings, the following day puts another 900 shillings, clearly demonstrating that this was a people-driven IPO and that we are truly democratizing the ownership of what have been known as government-owned enterprises. Number three, the investment by the government of Uganda is considered very strategic, making Kpc a truly regional corporate. Actually, it is like safeguarding and protecting one of the key markets being served by Kpc. So the participation or investment by the Uganda government, which we will announce how much has been put in from the East African community, is a true reflection that this is going to be a regional company. And it's not just Uganda. Rwanda has also invested in this company through their pension fund. Number four, this is the first government-led IPO being undertaken through a structured legal framework, the Privatization Act of 2025, with cabinet and parliamentary oversight, public participation and compliance with capital markets, sector and competition regulations, heightening the transparency and oversight framework in divestiture of public holdings. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that there is an intrinsic link between economic development and capital markets development. The capital markets are the most strategic tools that support economic growth through the provision of capital, encouraging investments and improving market systems. From a capital markets development perspective, Kenya Pipeline Company, as a newly listed corporate at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, provides institutional investors, both local and foreign, such as mutual funds, pension funds, and insurance companies, with an additional instrument to diversify their assets geographically, thus increasing the potential for significant inflows of portfolio investment. The eventual listing of Kpc at the Nairobi Securities Exchange shall increase institutional investors' desired stock of assets in the exchange, and this will end up with an increase in the flows of foreign capital. At the National Treasury, we continue making steady progress in effecting an economy-wide and state corporation sector-specific reforms and corporation-specific restructurings, not just as an end in itself, and also in response to policy and business dynamics. The dynamics include the following. One, where the rationale for government intervention is no longer necessary, e.g. government intervened because of a market failure, for example, and that market failure is no longer present, hence the need to elevate the role of the government to one of policy and regulation to support commercial activities of the private sector, to avoid conflict at the commercial operations level. We are reducing government's involvement in business and reducing the role of government to what it should be, that is policy and regulation to support the commercial activities of the private sector. Number two, to optimize on revenue raising capabilities for the national treasury, either to reduce debt or to reduce taxation. Again, I cannot overemphasize that. Number three, improving economic or sectoral economic performance. And number four, to develop and deepen our capital markets. Number five, to diversify corporate ownership and or attracting outside investment. And number six, to open up markets for competition and improving service delivery. I must also say that from a timing perspective, we are also coming to the market to list KPC at a time when we are experiencing significant momentum at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The NSE has experienced a significant rally over the last 1 year, anchored by a rising market capitalization which crossed 3 trillion in November 2025, and I think now is at 3.3 trillion. The rally peaked to level up the all-time high performance recorded in the NSE alongside double-digit growth across all key benchmark indices for the 6 months ending June 30th, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me at this juncture to finalize by performing my statutory duty to announce the detailed results of the IPO. As you may all remember, the offer opened on 19th January 2026 and closed on 24th of February 2026. We did offer 11,812,644,350 shares at a price of 9 shillings each. The total number of shares applied for stood at 12,486,078,724, translating to an overall subscription rate of 105.7%. Having received full subscription of the offer shares, signals a resounding vote of confidence in the government's privatization agenda. We have allocated 7,951,752,222 shares to the Kenyan individual and institutional investors, representing 67.32% of the offer shares, while the East African community individual and institutional investors have been allocated 3,857,024,178 shares, representing 32.65% of the offer shares. From the IPO performance outcome, KPC transitions not just that of being a listed corporate, but will now be properly positioned as a regional company, allowing it to play a significant geopolitical role in East Africa's petroleum sector, primarily through its pipeline infrastructure and strategic location. KPC from this divestiture shall acquire the much needed flexibility to accept capital for expanding its pipeline capacity, improving storage facilities, and developing its oil refinery to cater to increased demand and regional needs. In conclusion, I want to appreciate all the stakeholders who contributed to this landmark success. I might not be able to mention all those involved, but allow me to recognize the following key stakeholders. Number one, the National Assembly, which was key in granting the necessary approvals and oversight as required by law. Number two, all the investors for their trust and confidence in the IPO amidst the many prophets of doom. Number three, the government of Uganda for accepting our invitation to invest in KPC, allowing the company to be a proper regional company. And I also want to add the government of Rwanda. Number 4, the board and management of privatization authority, led by the chairman of the board and the acting managing director, Dr. Jane Rose Omondi, for its focused leadership during the transaction. Number 5, the board and management of Kenya Pipeline Company, led by the chairman of the board, Madam Faith Boynet, and of course, Joe Sang, for their cordial support towards the success of the transaction. Number 6, the Capital Markets Authority and the Nairobi Securities Exchange for their rigorous regulatory oversight that ensures the integrity of this process. And number 7, the Transaction Advisory Team, led by the lead transaction advisors, Faida Investment Bank, the legal advisors. In fact, I would want to request Faida Investment Bank to stand if they are in the room. The transaction advisors, are they in the room? They are out. I thought they were to come here. I wanted to demonstrate to you who they are, and you look at them. They are Kenyans. You know, sometimes when we talk about transaction advisors, we think Kenyans cannot be transaction advisors. But they are Kenyans. As they walk in, the legal advisors, triple OK law advocates and G&A advocates. Yes, actually I wanted you to stand, and you could stand or walk, whichever. You look at them. These are the transaction advisors. Look at them. Yeah, these are the people who have done a fantastic job. Look at them. Thank you. You can have your seats. I just wanted them to see you. Yeah. I wanted Kenyans to see you. We have a talent here. In fact, I'm being told securities exchange in Tanzania was set up by a Kenyan. The same Kenyan set up the Uganda one. The same Kenyan set up the Rwanda one. The same Kenyan now is setting up the Burundi one. And we still don't have confidence in ourselves. The reporting accountant was PricewaterhouseCoopers. The data processing agent and share register, image registers. Again, stand up. Stand up. Look at him. Yeah. These are the people who have actually worked on this IPO. Thank you very much. Yeah. The joint sponsoring stockbrokers led by Diane Blair Investment Bank and Francis Drummond and Company Limited. The advertising agency, Belva Digital. Yeah, are they in the room? You are there? Yeah, they also should look at you. Yeah, she's there. Another Kenyan. The PR agency, Apex, Porter Novelli. Are they here? Yes, thank you. It's good. Thank you very much. And the receiving banks, Cooperative Bank, they are here. Thank you very much. KCB Bank, they are here. And Stanbic Bank. Stanbic, there were 3 banks. Stanbic is not represented, for their technical expertise in structuring and executing this complex transaction. And the last, and to all the stockbrokers, investment banks, and agents across the country who took this message to every corner of Kenya. Thank you very, very much. That's it. That's it. That's it. Maybe let me just, if you have questions on the details of who has bought what, I know that if that question comes, I'll call Abdul when that time comes. You can come and make that announcement. But allow me just to give an overview. After this, who owns what? Government of Kenya will still continue to hold 35%. Foreigners, we were accused of having identified some foreigner out there to buy KPC. And they were speaking with authority. How this government is a government that is selling our assets. We are giving up our prime assets, our jewel, to foreigners. Now look at those foreigners we are giving this jewel to. they will own or hold 0.02%. I hope we are together. East African Community, Uganda, I mentioned Rwanda, combined 21.22%. Our institutional investors, our local institutional investors, 40.99%. You can call it 41%. Retail investors, you and I who have bought, 2.56%. Employees of the Kenya pipeline, 0.06%. And finally, oil marketers, 0.014%. That gives you 100%. That is what the structure. So if you look at this, Kenyans, together with their government, we still own 79% in KPC. And about 21% is going to be owned by East African community. The rest of our brothers in the East African. And almost nothing to foreigners. The ones we were accused that we were selling our company to. So you were told that this IPO was targeted to certain individuals. You were told that. Who are those certain individuals? I have read. Our institutional investors, are they the certain targeted individuals? They are going to own 40%, 41% of this company. The others will be the East African community, 21%. The big ones, no, GOK will still own 35%. We were also told that we are privatizing and disposing public assets for a song. And the same people are the same ones who are saying we have overpriced. You know, Kenya is very interesting. You can lie, one side of your mouth says something, another side says something else. So the same people who are saying we are selling the company for a song are the same ones who are again telling people, don't buy. This thing is overpriced. And they are claiming to be always buying shares so they know. You know, it's like if you have been traveling in a matatu every day, you say, I know how to drive because I've been traveling in matatu every day. You have to go to school to learn how to drive. Ngapi unaweka gear number 1, gear number 2, if you are doing the manual. And again, there was the company was being given away to foreigners. Have we given this company away to foreigners? If now you are asked that question, the answer is no. We have just democratized the ownership of KPC. That is what has happened today. And that is what is going to happen. From next week now, from next week, when the bell rings, you can now go and buy shares of KPC. It will be the 5th, terms of size at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. After Safaricom, after KCB, Equity, and East African EABL. Sindio? This is going to be number 5. Si mchezo. If you have money now, start doing business. And I know those people who have been criticizing KPC, now they will go at night and buy.
It gives me immense pleasure on behalf of the Privatization Authority to deliver this vote of thanks at the conclusion of this truly historic occasion, the official announcement of the results of the Kenya Pipeline Company IPO. Today, we celebrate more than the successful closure of an offer. We celebrate innovation. We celebrate reform, and we celebrate progress. This IPO will be remembered as a landmark transaction, not only because of the strong investor response, but because it was Kenya's first ever e-IPO. By leveraging technology to enhance accessibility, transparency, and efficiency, we have taken a bold step into the future of public offerings in our country. This achievement demonstrates our collective commitment to modernizing our capital markets and expanding participation to more Kenyans than ever before. Allow me to express our sincere gratitude to our Cabinet Secretary, Honorable John Mbadi, for presiding over today's announcement and for his unwavering leadership in strengthening Kenya's economic and financial architecture. Your stewardship, sir, continues to inspire confidence among investors and stakeholders alike. We extend our sincere appreciation to PS Cyril Odede for his unwavering support throughout this process, and to the Director General Lawrence Kibet for steadfastly walking this journey with us. Your dedication, guidance, and commitment have been instrumental to the success of this undertaking and have not gone unnoticed. To the board, management, and employees of the Kenya Pipeline Company, thank you for your partnership, dedication, and professionalism throughout this journey. Your commitment has ensured that this transaction reflects the true value and potential of the Kenya Pipeline Company. We also extend our deep appreciation to the transaction advisors, regulatory authorities led by the Capital Markets Authority and the Nairobi Securities Exchange, financial institutions that were involved in this transaction, and all partners who worked diligently to deliver a seamless and credible e-IPO process. Being the first of its kind required courage, innovation, and collaboration, and together we have set a new benchmark. To the investing public, institutional investors, and individual Kenyans across the country, we thank you for embracing the digital platform and demonstrating confidence in Kenya Pipeline Company and in our nation's reform agenda. Your participation affirms that Kenyans are ready to engage in wealth creation through transparent and accessible capital markets. As the Privatization Authority, we are proud to have led this transformative process. This milestone reinforces our mandate to unlock value in state enterprises, broaden ownership, and deepen our capital markets through forward-looking reforms. Finally, we thank all distinguished guests and members of the media for joining us here today at the Serena Hotel, Nairobi, to witness this historic moment. I may not be able to name each and every group or person that was involved, but wherever you are, just know that we are very, very grateful for your participation. As we conclude, let us recognize that today's success is not the end of a journey, but the beginning of a new chapter. One that is defined by innovation, inclusion, and shared prosperity. On behalf of the Privatization Authority, I thank you all for your support, your trust, and your partnership in building a stronger, more dynamic Kenya. Thank you very much, and may God bless Kenya.